The Founders Podcast. Listen to the stories of how everyday extraordinary people start amazing businesses. Hear how they overcome the odds and find success in the entrepreneurial world. The up and down, the good and the bad, and everything in between. And now, your hosts, Jordan Hansen and Brandon Meinert.
Okay, hello everybody, and a hearty welcome to anyone joining us today on this edition of the Founders Podcast. We're excited that you're making us part of your day. Happy to have you listening, and excited to bring this week's guest to you. We are broadcasting from the United Commercial Insurance Studio. United Commercial Insurance, give us a call.
Just cuz?
Yeah.
The chat.
Call us. Find out what we have.
Give us a little. What do you do?
There's curiosity in that. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Your business insurance, Matt. Okay. And it doesn't matter what type of business you have.
General liability.
We're gonna do your general liability because you need that when you're renting locations, when you're leasing it out. We're gonna do your business owner policies. We're gonna do your workers' comp. We're gonna do your cyber.
Okay, let's do it.
We'll do all that. So give us a call, 208-229-8222. United Commercial Insurance, big or small. We do them all. Bring it on. Broadcasting here with my co-host, I'm Brandon Meinert. I have Matt Lamb to my left, Jordan Hansen to my right. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. We don't have video, so we're going to post this on YouTube without video. Pretend like we're looking our best.
Yeah.
And you missed it. Sorry.
And it's too bad for you.
Too bad for you.
And so that's too bad. Anxious to get to the story, to this person, to this guest who's sitting right in front of us. And I'm going to introduce him today. So, the guest we have is the owner of Smart Agents Real Estate for the last 23 years. Can you do the calculations on when he started that?
I can, yeah.
The dates. 2000. So I'll let you do that. Okay? Get out your calculator.
It's 2000.
No, get out your calculator. Okay? 23 years, Smart Agents Real Estate. Also is the owner of Home Hacks, home automation company. You can see them both on IdahoSmartAgents.com and HomeHacksHQ.com. Check them out. Today's guest, Eric Jensen. Eric, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Excited.
Happy to have Eric on. We've met him a couple times. Into a lot of stuff. Has Simpsons socks on right now.
Yeah. You know, I think memes tell a lot about the culture of life, and I just love a good sock.
Yeah. Well, Simpsons, they're the basis of a lot of memes.
They are. And that's my favorite meme. Honestly, it's Homer Simpson backing into the bush.
Love it. Yeah. It's such a good one.
What did I just do?
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, so technically TikTok is like a meme culture, right? It's like videoed memes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like almost all social is video memes or meme culture, right? Like TikTok, Twitter.
Everything.
Are you on TikTok, Eric?
No. I don't. Well, I've got TikTok accounts, but I don't spend a whole lot of time on there.
Is it installed on your phone right now?
I'd have to look. I think it is. You know how the iPhone always like deletes apps? I know it's been installed on my phone.
Got it.
But I would guess it's probably self-deleted itself.
It does that?
Offload it.
Yeah.
Offload. That's the term.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Keeps it clean.
You don't like it?
Well, I only have an iPad, and I just know that I don't use it that often, but when I go there and I'm like, crap, it doesn't have it installed, especially I only use it like on trips, so I'm like, oh, Lords of Waterdeep is not here anymore.
You can turn it off.
I need to turn it off.
I actually like that. I wish that happened in my room.
Yeah.
It's just offloaded stuff that I haven't used in a long
That
time.
candy bar wrapper over there, don't need it anymore.
Offload
it.
Babe, don't worry. It's going to be offloaded in a week. What are you bringing out about?
Business idea.
That is a good business. Offloading.
We offload your house.
Offloading your house. Well, that's cool. Well, we're excited to get into your story, Eric. Are you from Idaho?
I am. I'm born and raised. I was actually just kind of like thinking through as I knew I was coming on. I was just kind of looking back, and I was born in St. Luke's in downtown Boise.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Third floor. Yeah,
Airplanes.
maybe right
Me
there.
too.
Mm-hmm. You too?
Brandon?
No.
You weren't.
He was in
But me, yeah. I was.
somewhere else.
It was
Air Force
It was
Base.
so long ago that it was prior to. I mean, the third floor was the highest.
I mean,
floor.
Luke was still alive, right? St. Luke was
Yes,
still,
he was.
he was around that.
the patron founder.
That is true. That is true.
Think about Lucas back then, the doctor. Yeah. He just finished his writings.
Yeah. So I was born here, raised here, lived here pretty much my whole life. Other than
Centennial High School?
Centennial High, yeah. So I went to Centennial High School with
my oldest brother Ren, who was on episode 52. So
does that come out?
It's coming. It's not released yet,
tomorrow.
but Friday.
No, 2 days. Yeah.
Friday.
2 days?
Well,
I'd be
not
interested
Friday
to
for
hear
our
that one.
listeners, but
Yeah,
I'm
well,
going to see how much truth he told, because I've been through that whole process with him. So
Yeah.
yeah,
that was a good story.
it's a good time. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I went to school at Centennial. Lowell Scott, back in the day when Eagle Road was a little 2-lane farm road, and
right.
and there were kids that actually drove themselves to school
In middle school?
in middle school. There was a kid that had a Corvette. He had
Are
a
you
Stingray
serious?
Corvette. I don't even remember what the kid's name was, but he would drive it and park it in the dirt parking lot out there. And
How was that even a
I
thing?
have no clue.
Were there
we
no
drive-
road laws at the time you were growing up?
You could do if you were a farmer, right? You could drive like track. Like my dad was driving like 9. He was 9 years old driving a tractor down.
Your
state.
dad's 78
I
years
agree.
old,
That's a
though.
lot.
dude.
I agree. Different world, right? How
Yeah.
old are you? No, I don't think Eric's 70. He's 80.
No,
I'm
it's
not-
not.
You don't look
I'm-
70.
I'm far from it. Graduated in '95 from Centennial, but my first driving experience was, I think I was 12. My mom's side of the family is from Eastern Idaho, and I used to go over there and I'd move pipe with them. And my uncle tells me one day, he says, "Hey, I need you to drive this truck from this side of the field over to that side of the field and then back to the barn, because I need to drive this tractor back over there." And I think I was probably 11 maybe. And it was a stick. It was a big old 250.
Okay.
And the field's all plowed, furrows, and I just get in that with my cousin, and he was younger than me, and go start driving. And it was, it took off on its own, and then it just like jerking over all the bumps, and I'm just hopping over everything. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm terrified.
How did you on a stick shift?
On a stick?
How did
That's-
you even do that?
There's no way.
You'd stall that over
You
and over
must
and
have
over.
done a little bit before.
No,
Right.
that was it. It was literally, I think that was the first time I drove.
That's a
Was
lot of
in this-
faith. Your uncle or
Did
my
somebody
uncle?
put it in gear and then you just kind of took off?
No,
or-
in gear?
It was me driving. We'd driven 4-wheelers and motorcycles and all that sort of stuff on the farm as we'd go back over there. But yeah,
So you understood the concept of a clutch.
yeah,
Then.
yeah, for sure.
My 12-year-old can't drive an automatic.
Are you letting him drive?
I wouldn't.
Well, he
I
doesn't
wouldn't.
know
He
yet.
can't drive it. Well, I'm just saying, like, if I was like, get in this car and drive it, he'd be like,
Drive it
"Not
across the
happening."
field. Yeah.
He's like, no, not happening. I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah. I put my 12-year-old in my truck when it snowed just enough to do cookies in the church parking lot, and that was about the extent of what his driving skills are at this stage in his life. But I wasn't much better doing that driving. So anyhow,
For
yeah.
our international listeners, Eric mentioned he went to Lowell Scott. We named that school Local Snot.
I think it should still be known by that. I think, right?
I think it is. Yeah.
To anyone else, but that goes. Even people that went there, I'm assuming called it local snot.
We did.
Yeah. So just FYI.
Yeah.
For our listeners, just want to make sure
Food
that's
for
where
thought.
Eric went. That's where Eric grew up.
Wait,
Yes.
so Eric, now we want you to explain what you do.
Yeah.
You have the 2 businesses we listed here: Homeworks. No, Homeworks.
Home hacks.
Home Hacks.
Home hacks.
Dang it, sorry. Home Hacks, not to support Homeworks.
Don't do homework.
No, home
Homehackshq.com.
HomehacksHQ.com, and then your real estate business. So
Yes.
you want to talk just a few minutes, just summarize what those 2 do.
Yeah. So Smart Agents Real Estate, that is a real estate brokerage. I'm the broker of it. I started my real estate career years and years and years ago. Basically, I was still going to college at the time, and I'm actually a 3rd-generation real estate broker here in the Valley. My grandmother was a broker. She lived in Eagle, and she had a real estate license, and she was I like to tell the story. She owned kind of a city block in downtown Eagle a long time ago. I think you may have.
What,
It was
What-
George and Elaine Jensen was their names. And anyhow, she lived out there, and I used to go do work on there were a couple trailers on it and an old house that she rented out. And then I think where the rain gutter ABC siding or something like that is down there.
Yeah.
She used to own that building and a few others. So anyhow, she did it, but she did it more as an investment side. My dad has spent his entire career as a real estate broker. So, all growing up as a kid, real estate was just in my blood. I remember having those little metal lockbox keys, and I would always steal it from my dad as on Sunday drives. We'd go drive around and look at houses, and they had these old MLS books, and they were just piled in the back of the car, and we just, I came from 7 kids, so I was the middle of 7 children, and so I think just to give us something to do and get out of the house we would go for these drives, and we drive all over the valley, and we'd go. My dad had let me open up the key so that we could go look at the house, and so, you know, I did that. That was kind of, you know, those core memories as a kid, is driving around looking at houses. Kind of, I always knew what my dad did, you know, and so that was kind of how that passion and desire came about. It was the family business, right? My dad, he was partners in the very first Remax brokerage here in the valley, and he's just been a broker and just heavily involved in the real estate world here in the valley. And so I just kind of followed in his footsteps, and that was kind of how I got my passion. We can talk more about that too, but that's how that started. And then, you know, I have always considered myself a lifelong learner. I love to kind of learn, to educate myself. I think it's really important, and I've done it through a bunch of different ways, and I've always had a passion for technology. You know, when I was a little kid, my dad brought home a Commodore 64, and it was one of the very early computers for Windows, before any of those things. And I had, in Little Scott, I had this friend, kind of before I discovered sports. Just, we were super nerdy. We would geek out about, like, you could make your own copies on these floppy disks, and we'd make copies of things and share games back and forth with each other. And it was kind of, you know, even, it may have been, I actually don't know if it came first or if the Nintendo, but I'm pretty sure the Commodore 64, it came a little bit before the Nintendo. And
It did.
Did it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then that was, I just loved, like, what you could do with it. And, you know, obviously computers blew up and all of us use them now. But, so I always had a real passion around technology and that. And so that was, you know, I'm trying to figure out the most logical way to tell the story of how I got to Home Hacks in that business. But, you know, Home Hacks didn't start, we've been
What is it, though? What does it do?
So Home Hacks is, we do home automation, we do audio video, we do low voltage, we do pre-wires for new construction, for different builders, and that sort of stuff. And so that one kind of came about as, you know, I was obviously in real estate, and I know a lot of builders, and as a matter of fact, Ren and I, we did probably 3 houses when we were very first married, with our spouses. He and I, your dad, who's a builder, Matt, he said, I think I've got these 2 houses, go do all the pre-wire for it. So he and I did that. And just, it didn't really stick, but it was interesting. And then we moved on, both of us kind of went our separate paths. It was just kind of a side hustle. And then about 5 years ago, I met my, my business partner, with Home Hacks, and he was really, really, he's very technical, super smart, and you know, kind of had a lot of the same passions for technology as I did. And we initially started just kind of creating video content. He's also an amazing video producer, and he had studied that in college, and it's kind of one of his passions. And so we said, hey, let's just do all of this new, like, HomeKit stuff for Apple, and all of these things that are coming out that are really simplifying the home, but making it, like, bringing it into the 21st century. Let's do unboxings, and we will do kind of just reviews on that sort of stuff.
Like YouTube stuff then,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so we started that, and I mean, it was fun, but we started putting out this content, and then we started having our friends reach out to us, and we had builders reach out, and they said, hey, can you do some of this stuff? Because, you know, there's a bunch of different levels of integration that you can do within a home. There's just kind of, you know, the old school, just flip lights on and off, all the way up to, you know, full Control 4, and I mean, you almost need a degree to be able to run all that stuff. But we wanted to find kind of that happy medium where, as kind of this HomeKit stuff was coming out, that we could provide that level of integration, but to a degree that every man would want to use it. And so that's where it kind of came out of. And from there, we really just kind of, it just kind of grew. We just sort of bootstrapped it for a long time. We just did our own, I was helping with installs and doing that sort of stuff. And I don't know if you guys have ever been in this situation where for me, I love to learn. I love a new challenge, but I also have my core business. My core business is real estate and brokerage and managing agents and working with all my clients and that sort of stuff. And so this thing was like a side hustle that I never really talked about to my core group of supporters. And I always felt a little like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? But it was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. And from there, it just kind of grew into its own business. And Greg, my business partner, he ultimately quit his job, which he had a really great job, but he quit that to come and run this full time and manage the employees and manage operations and that sort of stuff. And so now it's kind of he and I doing the kind of business side of it. And then
a bunch of contractors out there.
And then he runs the operations for everybody.
So is YouTube still your main marketing channel for this?
No, it's not. Short answer. It's not, but we are working on moving back into that as a primary channel. We actually have done video production for a handful of clients in the past. And we always have the conversation that we need to get back into creating this content for ourselves and using that to really push our brand and push our product and our projects. And so, I love the beginning of a new year because it gives you an opportunity to kind of reassess and make new goals. And
you can't do it any other time.
I know. That's the thing. I don't know what it is. There's something about.
I agree, though. Same thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel that energy. Yeah.
So we've kind of recommitted to that. We've been setting up a studio in our office to be able to create the content that we want to be producing, similar to what you guys have set up here, and working on that. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, right now, percent wise, what would your revenue percent wise to you from one business versus the other?
So I am probably 80% is my real estate brokerage.
Yeah.
That's still my bread and butter. It's still, I'm super passionate about it. And I've always taken the mentality that because I've built that out through basically just referrals. I've been a referral based agent my entire life. I don't know. During the downturn, 2008 was pretty tough. Maybe I should.
Yeah, don't.
Well, we'll get there. Yeah. But in any case, I'm just impressed. 20%. That's a side hustle. Just doing 20% revenue.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. And the hope is that it grows.
You're probably going to be still limited. Not limited, right? You're full time, kind of, right? You're doing both full time.
Well, I'm sure as you guys know, as an entrepreneur, you may work full time in more than one job, right?
Yes.
The hours you're not a 9 to 5 kind of person, and so the hours that you work, you can probably pack in a lot more than you think you can. And so that was, for me, that's kind of how I did it. When I wasn't doing my real estate business, I was working a lot of hours getting this thing up and off the ground. And, like I said, we really bootstrapped it. It was he and I kind of working around our existing jobs and then ultimately hiring our first employee and then, growing it from that point. So
yeah. Sorry, I keep getting into, I'm not trying to get spoilers into the episode here, but I was really interested in that breakdown, especially because it's hard to do side hustles and do them well.
Yeah.
And have that provide 20%. I think that's a very notable thing.
Yeah. And, I think at some point it could probably be significantly bigger. That's ultimately the goal, is having multiple streams of revenue and that sort of stuff. And, I learned that lesson when
2008.
Yeah. When 2008 hit, and I was just like, ugh. This is not fun.
Still kind of tied together, though, it seems like, right?
Yeah, they are. Definitely they are. The interesting thing, so I also, I do sales, like real estate sales, brokerage, management, but I also do property management. And, as kind of the career evolves and you see a need, and as a referral based person, I'm like, how can I meet the needs of my clientele? Like, so they don't need to go, find somebody else that does this thing. And so you just kind of become an expert. That's where that continually learning and educating myself thing comes in, that, I'm like, how can I handle everything with real estate for this customer of mine? Whether it be they want to buy a house, they want to sell a house, they want to, remodel a house, they want to rent a house, they want to buy an investment property.
I see how this is tying in. Yeah. So that's even like, or setting up their home stereo system or whatever.
Yeah. And as a real estate agent, I've always felt that my job is, if I can't do it, I've got a good base of people that I can pull from that can do those types of things. And so, constantly referring people to contractors that they need to fix things, or to, renovate as they're preparing to sell their home, or, fix up all the little odds and ends that need to happen. That's, it just kind of morphs into these additional businesses. And then you look strategically at how you can add these to provide more value, but also if it's close enough to kind of your wheelhouse of what you do, how you can bring it in-house. So,
I want to shift gears here real quick and maybe travel back in time to post Centennial High School. Did you go to college out of high school?
I didn't go out of high school. I went straight out of high school. I went on a mission for my church. I spent 2 years in Texas, which was it was a great experience for me, both kind of spiritually, but also understanding, how things need to work systemically, like how this stuff happens. I spent a lot of time in the office, and I mean, this may be behind baseball, but I ended up like, they have to move these missionaries all over the area. And I was in a big area, and the president of the mission would say, hey, there's 30 of these young men and young women that need to be transferred from this place to that place. And logistically, I need you to figure out how to do that. And so that always fell on my shoulders. I had this big van, and I'd load it up, and we'd drive people, all the way from Fort Worth to Amarillo and back down in a 2-day period. And we do that once or twice a month. So, so I learned a lot about kind of logistics, I guess, if you will. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a fun growing experience for me. But
okay. So you go on a 2-year church mission.
Yes.
You come back. Where does life take you from there?
So I came back. I actually went into real estate school, got my license, was going to Boise State as well. I have, like I said before, my family, my dad was a real estate broker, so kind of entrepreneurial as well. And
so when you were growing up, though, was it your plan to work with your dad coming out of college, going into college? Was your dad like, Eric, join me?
No.
In my legion?
No. So that's a funny thing. Almost my whole family at the time that I came home was working for my dad in one way or another. Mm-hmm. My mom was
like, you have 7.
I've got
7 kids,
7 siblings.
6 siblings.
Yeah, 6 siblings, 7 of us total, and so the ones that were either able to work or still around that hadn't gone away to college and that sort of stuff, they were either working for my dad or in the industry. And so I came home, and I kind of thought, I ultimately knew that was what I was, when you're a kid and you take those tests and they say, you answer all these questions and they say, you're likely to be good at this or that. One of mine, I remember taking it and it said real estate. And I'm like, I guess I am meant to be a real estate agent.
Can't fight it anymore.
I know. So I'm like, I'm not going to fight it. So I studied business administration when I was at Boise State. I did not graduate. I didn't go all the way through 4 years. I was told.
How far did you make it?
2.
Okay.
And regrets or not regrets?
No regret. Well, I guess every once in a while I'm like, I wonder if I would have had more doors open to me. But now that I'm getting older, not that I am against college. I love the educational system or maybe not the system, but I love education. I think that a lot of people can get as much education as they need outside of the college. experience. I do think that the experience socially is important, but I don't think that, like, I look at a lot of people that are coming out of college with, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
It really comes down to ROI, right?
Yeah. And I just don't think that it is for everybody. I've got a college-age daughter who is going to school, and it's perfect for her because the thing that she wants to do absolutely requires her to do that. And
Eric, we've had somebody on that takes pride in not graduating.
Yeah?
Is that you? You're like,
I don't know that I'd say I take pride in it, but I have no, I'm not upset that I didn't graduate. I'm not embarrassed that I didn't graduate. The joke I tell everybody is I went long enough to find a wife, and so I met
socially important.
Yes, I met my wife while I was there.
so there's a direct cost of getting married. It's like the
You
2
had to
years
pay
of
the
college.
2 years of college to be
And
able
some
to.
people it takes longer than 2 years.
Yeah.
They're a little bit slower.
And some people just end up getting a degree along that journey, and it just happens.
That's
As
a
a side
side.
effect,
It's just,
you get the degree.
So I'm curious what number of people are degree holders from higher education.
From this group,
Yeah.
we
All
all
of
hold
us,
it.
yeah,
we
all
all
of
hold
us.
So
it.
you all graduated. You all did 4 years.
No, Brandon has
More than
an
that.
MBA.
Yeah,
Hey, nice job.
higher education.
Higher.
Did you do it all?
I'm gonna make $1 million more than all of you guys. That's
proven.
what
That's
it is. Proven.
scientifically?
I did
Average.
1 semester with Brandon in the MBA
Yeah,
program.
you couldn't hack it.
Well,
The
this
ROI
program,
wasn't there.
Where was it?
No,
Boise
you're
State.
right.
All
Boise
those Boise
State,
State. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I don't know if I said that. I was at Boise State. And I loved Boise State. I loved the experience. So all through high school and starting in middle school, I was into sports. I was a really big football player, wrestled, track and field, and I loved it. I was a super hyperactive kid. I was really hard to be focused, but when I got into sports and really kind of got pulled into that, it was like kind of my eyes opened, and I had these great mentors that were kind of coaching me and teaching me, and I loved it. I came home off my mission. I mean, I probably could, had I tried harder, played football beyond that, but I didn't. But I did end up playing rugby for the Boise State club team. They had a club rugby team, and that actually was a lot of fun. A fun experience to kind of see.
I'm going to share one memory that I have of you.
Okay,
Eric.
let's hear it.
So this is Turkey Bowl at Settlers Park.
Football at Thanksgiving.
That was a great story.
Football at Thanksgiving.
That actually is one of my one regret in life is that.
Did you tear your ACL?
Whoa. Let's keep. I want to hear the story.
So, we're playing. It's obviously cold. It's a bunch of older men who shouldn't be playing football. Slippery conditions. I don't know Eric very well at that point. I've seen him around.
How long ago is this?
This is...
It had to have been right around 2008.
Yeah.
I could probably look in my phone and see the pictures of the surgery. But
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I know where we're
So
going.
what happened, Eric?
Way to spoil.
I want to hear your side
Well,
of the story.
I just
know
remember...
my side. I tell it so much, but I want to
the
hear yours, then
whole
I'll fill in the
injury, medical stuff. At this point, I think I'm better now, but I was queasy. Eric goes down. His leg went one way and his body went another, and his
Did
knee...
you have the ball?
I had the ball.
Yeah, his knee was just, and there were people gathered around. And I don't think anybody knew what to do. It was just like,
Could you see a bone?
You could not see bone.
Oh,
So-
close, so close.
It was, I was telling Matt, that is probably, I don't have a lot of regrets. I don't let guilt guide my life a whole lot. But that moment, I regret it because my knees, I still am very active. I love working out. I love running. And that injury has
Time out.
impacted
I
me.
remember playing with you guys at Settler Park. And you know what sucked about playing with the Lamb family setup is we'd start out playing 2-hand touch, and then some idiot would have the idea like, let's do tackle.
I was that idiot.
That was you.
That was me. So
and
we're
I was
playing.
like, why are
Were
we
you there,
doing
Brandon?
tackle?
Were you there
did
when I got
2 years.
injured?
I remember somebody injuring their knee, and I just remember when somebody, macho man, said, why don't we do tackle? I'm like, somebody's getting injured.
So,
why are we going to
the
get
guy
injured?
that volunteered it is the one that got injured. So we're playing.
I
and it
should have
was-
looked at you and be like, no, this isn't going to end well for you. Like, this isn't good. Like, don't
He
do
wishes.
this.
Now
Eric
that
wishes.
we're older, we're all like, wish we could have made some different decisions.
should have known better.
But yeah, so I said, hey, let me back up a little bit. I told my wife, I said, hey, I've got to go to work this morning. It was a Saturday morning, and I'm like, I've got to go do this stuff. And so I drove into the office, air quotes here, but it was to Settlers Park.
Whoa, you really lied? I mean, it was a.
I thought this was a
Oh my
Thanksgiving.
gosh!
I lied to my wife because I don't even know why. I don't think
Does
Probably
she
'cause she
know
was,
you?
like,
Well,
stressed
obviously
about-
she knows you lied now.
Well, yeah, because
You're like, oh, this happened at
so
work.
we're running. We're running, and
What
I'm
were
like,
you doing at work?
let's do tackle, guys. Come on, this is lame. Not wearing cleats, obviously. It's
Yeah.
wet, it's slick.
Yeah.
So I got the ball. I'm running down, trying to make it down the sideline, and Pete,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I was there.
partner.
I was
Yeah.
there.
You were there.
I was there for that.
Ren comes on the other side. Both of them wrap up on my one leg, and I keep going the other direction and just snap. I mean, I just blew my ACL. And I remember Pete, he felt super bad, and he's like, dude, it felt like a 2x4 broke in my chest because I was wrapped around you. And so, yeah, blew my ACL, tore the meniscus, just made a mess of my knee. And so
Tough day at work.
it was a tough day at work. I crawled back to my car, I'm pretty sure.
Because you didn't tell anyone. You're
we
like, oh, this
left you
hurts.
there? Did we just leave
No,
you there?
you
Like,
did.
I did.
drove myself.
You
I
kept
drove
playing.
myself to the dock in the box.
There goes Eric.
Wait,
He
had you
his
called
car.
your wife yet?
No. I get to the dock in the box,
You
and he's
thought,
like,
I
"You should
I'll
be
probably
doing
be
it."
fine. She won't notice.
Rub some
You know
dirt
what's
on
kind
it,
of
right?
sad is we were like, well, I guess keep playing. And Eric's
Yeah.
like, I got to like army crawl.
Well, I remember keeping my distance and not wanting to look because it sounded
Really?
it was bad.
Yeah, it was no fun.
Okay, so the doctor said, yeah, you got to go to the ER.
Yeah, he's like, "You need some work." So that's when I called my wife, and I'm like, "Hey."
Were you really feeling like were you more stressed about the damage to your knee or telling your wife? On Thanksgiving Day, I would be scared to say, by the way, I lied.
So yeah, I think there are two moments in my life that I won't say lied. They're just not truths that I told.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Sure, call them what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, this goes back to I don't like to let guilt guide my life, and so I don't want to feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
So,
Just call it something else.
Spin it something.
Spin it.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that was, and she was obviously upset, which granted she was justified in that. But anyhow, yeah. So that was the story of
Yeah.
the messed up knee, and it still bugs me. But
Yeah.
what can you do?
Glad I brought it up.
Thanks.
Yeah, way to go, man.
That was a good story. That was fun. I enjoyed that ride. Yeah, at your expense.
Time out on Thanksgiving Turkey Day football games.
Yes.
Because I think later on, a couple years later, we were playing at a high school,
Yeah.
really frozen ground. A buddy of mine jumps for a ball, lands on his shoulder, breaks his collarbone. Funniest thing I may have ever seen in my life was we took him to the ER, walk into the ER, everybody, like full
Turkey bowl.
sweatshirts, holding their shoulders, their noses, and their knees. And I I have this in my mind to this day. These guys are like, kind of, holding their shoulders. And the doctors are just laughing it up. Like, this is hilarious. You were
Just
one
like,
of those people.
Turkey bowl. Cha-ching.
Like, no
Cha-ching.
kidding. Go in at
There's-
like to the ER at 9:30 on turkey.
There's no
Or
glory in the ER.
no, there's no glory. And it's so funny to see because they're all dressed for a turkey bowl and they're all kind of like overweight guys.
I'm sure you were fit.
You
though,
weren't
Eric.
overweight. I'm sure you weren't overweight.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Non-football players playing on like a cold morning
Yeah.
and their noses are broken and their knees are hurting their shoulder. And it's
There's gonna be an injury. That's not my
every time.
Yeah.
And anyway, so if you want an experience on a Thanksgiving day,
That sounds really
Go to
fun.
the ER.
You know,
do
some
it.
people
Go,
go and like
go ER hopping.
go to like the Salvation or whatever the
No,
charities
no,
to
no,
get don't go to the soup kitchens. Go to the ER and just
ER.
laugh at the guys that
They're both full,
laying
soup
there
kitchen, everything. So just
So you're back to the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to Boise State,
Yes.
but you're also know that you're going to get into real estate.
yes.
Did you want to be a real estate agent, or did you know that one day you wanted to have a brokerage, or what was that
No,
plan
that
like?
progression was really kind of, just kind of unfolded as we were doing. I knew, so my dad, he kind of started a real estate team before teams were a thing. Like he had assistants and he had like buyer's agents.
like
and-
back office people, right?
Yep.
To make it
back
easier
office
for the
people.
agents.
Yep, exactly. And so when I came on initially in the business, he brought me on as a buyer's agent, and my exclusive responsibility was to put people in my car and drive them around, clients in my car and drive them around and and show them homes throughout the valley and talk to them. And then, you rely on the expertise and the knowledge of the primary agent to kind of do negotiations, that sort of stuff. So it was a training ground for me. And honestly, I feel like because the bar to get into real estate is pretty low. I mean, anybody can get in.
Even Jordan.
I don't
you
know.
Got your license?
I mean,
Have you tried?
this is hard.
Have you tried?
It sounds too hard.
Okay.
Anyway,
So yeah, I came in and was that buyer's agent, and they work out all sorts of different splits, and so I did that for a period of time, and then ultimately, the way the story goes is that my parents, they separated when I was just in that process, and when that was happening, the entire family was in the business. I'm like, I don't really want to be like here
Taken aside
with all of this. And so I stepped out of that, went full time into college at that point, worked for a furniture moving company. There's a local store called Commercial Home Furnishings. I worked for them for a period of time, and then had met my wife and said, hey, we're getting married. Let's get married. The RC Willey had just opened or was about to open, and I had heard these rumors that they got paid a lot of money, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go do that while I'm going to school. And then what we actually decided was, because my wife was so far along in her degree, that we'd keep her going. I would go work full time while she's doing that. And so that's what we did. And RC Willey has their hiring thing. I go over, I said, hey, I want to be a delivery driver. They said, well, you got to be up at 5 a.m. here and loading trucks, and you're paid on commission. And I'm like, oh, 5 a.m. I don't know that I can do that.
Delivery drivers are paid on commission?
Yeah. At
you
RC
deliver
Willey.
more, you get paid more, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Paid per delivery.
Paid per delivery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it wasn't like you're trying to convince the people, hey, take this.
Yeah. No.
They're like,
And I
that
guess-
couch belongs to somebody else. Well, you'd look
Depends
good
on
with
what you
it.
want to pay for it, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What do I have to do to get this couch in your house?
It's here right now.
they're the real closers right there. Yeah. So so that's where I ended up I'm like, hey, well, the manager of the store said, well, we do need people helping set things up and all this sort of stuff, because it wasn't even done. It wasn't open. And so I just said, yeah, I'll do it. So I started building, and they liked what I was doing, and they said, we want you to come and work in this department as working in the electronics department. So I did that, and that's where some of that real passion for
Low
audio,
voltage,
video,
yeah.
low voltage stuff came from. So
I want to go back a little bit.
yeah,
My parents also separated and later divorced.
yes.
They had their agency together, it sounds like, right?
Well,
or their names were both on it, or
my
no?
mom was never.
She was never in it.
Yeah, she was a stay-at-home mom with 7 kids. She was never part of the business. I mean, obviously she had ownership because she was married to him. But
Yeah. Did that kind of fracture your dad's? You left from the agency at that point, right? Was that
I
a
left.
big deal?
I think as a kid and kind of, when you're younger, you're pretty selfish and you don't think a whole lot about those types of things. I don't know that I know how it impacted the business. I got to think it had to have some sort of impact.
It didn't stop immediately. It kept going. You don't know if there was pain or it made it harder or whatever.
Yeah. And he kept selling. They separated. He kept doing the real estate brokerage, and ultimately I came back to it after, I think it was a year and a half, was that time period that I had stepped away and came back and said, okay, let's do this again. And everything had settled. And really my parents, there was not animosity there. There wasn't any of that. It was just, they went their separate ways. And so, I came back in at that point, and that's really kind of when I consider me really taking off. So I stayed as, we kind of progressed. I was just an employee of his, but his son. And then I progressed and took on more responsibility beyond just being a buyer's agent, and started doing listings. And, then I moved from that to saying, hey, because I was a driven person. I wanted success, and so asked for a little more responsibility, asked for a little ownership and some partnership, And so that was kind of given, at least it was given verbally. It wasn't really anything formally on paper. We didn't sign any documents or anything like that. And so that worked out great for a while. But I mean, we talked a little bit about this, and I know you've had a conversation about partnerships and how it works. And ultimately, as time went by, I just knew that partnering with my dad ultimately was not going to be a long-term fit for me. We just kind of lived different lifestyles and had different goals and aspirations. And so I said, hey, I think I need to do my own thing. I need to break off. I'm really appreciative in it. And again, everything was good there. But it was hard. I mean, it was hard making that split from my dad, who had trained me, who had raised me. And, thinking back, so I've got a 16-year-old son, and that presents all sorts of challenges. And I see things that he does, and I'm like, why are you doing that? And I think probably my dad had some of those same thoughts and feelings for me as I was kind of doing this. And I'm like, hey, I'm doing this because I think it's better for me. And ultimately, you got to do what's best for you. But I think probably we could have figured out ways to make it work. But
was your dad disappointed or happy for you?
I think both. He really was. He was happy. I stayed at the brokerage that he owned, so I still technically worked for him, but I had my own book of business and was doing my own thing. And then ultimately I said, I really need to step out from under the shadow of my dad. I need to go do my own thing. And so I left that brokerage and went to a small independent brokerage. At the same time I was doing, I've always been really heavily involved in like the local association for real estate. I was involved heavily in the multiple listing service. So I was the president of that multiple times. And during that I said, I want to kind of make a name for myself within the community, within the business. And so that was sort of some of my drive to leave there. And so I went to this other brokerage, and I worked under a broker. That broker ended up leaving that brokerage, and they said, hey, do you have any interest in being a broker? I'm like, I think as like just a career path, yeah, I want to do that. So I went to school to get all of my requirements for my broker's license and did that and managed it for them.
And what year is this that you're
was
going to start your own brokerage?
That'd be 98, right? 98, 99.
Well, no, this was 2008. This was about 2008 that I was there.
Wait, so you already had Idaho Smart Agents?
Idaho Smart Agents, this brokerage. I guess the brokerage itself, Idaho Smart Agents, started in 2010. So post collapse. Okay. I worked for this brokerage from there from 2008 till 10.
So you were doing Idaho Smart Agents was your real estate agent brand, but wasn't a brokerage until 2010.
Correct. It was not formally turned into a brokerage and that until 2010.
Okay. Also, I want to ask. So we've talked to some real estate agents, and we all know them. Now, the ones that do really well, they're typically charismatic people. They're good with people. Yeah. Now, I've had about 45 minutes, so I feel like I know you pretty well. Yeah. Yeah. And you're kind of an interesting mix of a guy. The fact that we talked earlier about nerdy stuff, how much you're watching Twitch, and you were playing on the Commodore. You were like, pioneering torrenting with your friend with just discs, right, at that time. Yeah. But also way into sports. Do you feel like you were like a confident guy in high school, or more like on the nerd side? I don't know where to put you.
That's a great question. And
you need to be categorized as one of the.
Yes. We have to put you in one hole. Yes.
So I like to think that I don't fit. I mean, you could, if you knew me on one level, you could put me in one. If you knew me on another level, you could put me in another.
So like the people that you're playing sports with were like, yeah, this is a sport guy. And then the nerds were like, yeah, this is a nerdy guy.
Well, I think everybody thought I was a nerd, even though I was sports. So obviously I've got glasses. I remember when I went into high school football, starting on the football team, I had braces, glasses,
a couple pimples, maybe.
Acne. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. And I was just like, ugh. And I mean,
what position did you play? I
was a defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle with the nerdy glasses, braces.
So the funny progression is this friend that I was telling you about with the Commodore 64 that we'd swap these discs, you know, I was very introverted at that time for some reason. I just was really, I mean, it's middle school. You're uncomfortable. Nobody is comfortable there. And it was just a tough place to be until you kind of find your tribe. And that was my tribe for a time. And I still liked that. But once I discovered sports, it was wrestling initially. And I don't know what it was. I was good at it. I had a lot of energy.
Confidence kind of went up.
Confidence went up. And that's kind of.
Did you date a lot?
No.
In middle school?
No, high school. You know, once you was getting to high school, like, were you like a ladies' man or more like, you know?
No, I wasn't.
I have a nerd.
It goes back to the nerd. Like I was kind of nerdy. We had a really great group of friends. That was one thing that I loved about high school is I had a great group of friends. We, you know, looking back, there are probably plenty of times that I should have been arrested and gone to jail and things like that because we were just dumb high school kids. But we were good kids. We weren't doing anything terrible.
Right. Yeah.
And so.
Now you were the son of a real estate dynasty. You know, grandma, behemoth, right? Yeah. And dad, like a baron, maybe, the Jensens.
Yeah, we were going to be the Trumps of the Treasure Valley.
That's right.
Or like they have on Netflix, like selling OC or selling whatever, selling Eagle.
I started before all that stuff. I remember when the first HGTV show came out, I'm like, man, that is going to ruin real estate.
And?
I think it ruined real estate.
Expectations are never recovered.
Totally messed up.
So your financial situation with your parents growing up, upper class, upper middle class, where would you say?
I think we were middle class. I mean, we had 7 kids. And
7 kids, right? That makes it harder.
Through, he went through, really tough economic times in the 80s, 90s. It seems like, real estate is very cyclical.
Yes.
And it's up and it's down. And sometimes you eat a lot and sometimes you don't. And so we were never, I don't think that I'm sure my dad had stress and anxiety.
You didn't have it though. You didn't know.
I did not. I didn't know. I mean, I thought everybody ate, whole loaves of bread made into egg salad sandwiches and frozen every.
What? Wait, what?
You didn't do that?
Loaves of bread?
So no, my mom would, because there were 7 kids, she would pre-make like all of our lunches.
And back then it wasn't called meal prepping.
No, it was not. It was called
lunch
just
making.
Got to feed these kids and I can't do it all in the morning before they got to get out to school. So she would make all these sandwiches and stuff and she'd freeze them. And then we'd go pull it out of the big like chest freezer and pull out our meal for the day and be off on our way. So
egg salad sandwich.
But wait, so
I hated egg salads.
Really? I like egg salad. Those are good.
I love eggs now, but
chicken salad sandwich. Excuse
also
me.
Good.
Continue.
Okay. So you didn't feel a lot of need or want or you didn't feel lacking.
No, I wouldn't say that I.
What drove you then? Is my question. Is you seem like an ambitious person.
Yeah.
You were there with your dad. You could have had probably a fine career with your dad. And besides the partnership, you were clearly driven. Like in high school, did you feel ambitious like that?
It was competition is really what it is. It's like both external and internal. Like I always wanted to be improving, making things better. I remember I used to mow my grandpa's lawn and I remember wanting to have the straightest lines in the lawn. And I would...
Who are you competing with?
Myself, I guess.
Perfection.
Like, did I do a better job?
Perfection.
He did.
Him versus perfection.
He lived on a golf course, so maybe I was competing with the
golf crew.
I don't know.
You're like, take this, sucker. Yeah. See these lines?
So, but I loved, like, I have somewhat of an obsessive personality too. Like, I really need things to be a certain way, and when it's something that I care about. And so I think that was a big part of it was I just had this drive to always be improving, and I think that's probably the biggest one. I do love and appreciate money and what it can do for you, but I have never been driven by I've got to have the biggest bank account, I've got to have the biggest house, I've got to have the coolest car. Those types of things that haven't been like big driving factors. It's that I want to be known as the best person that's doing this. I want to be respected for what it is that I'm doing. And all of those things come as a byproduct of that if you really are passionate about what it is that you're doing. And so that was, for me, that's what it was. I think if you were to talk to most agents, at least most that have been doing it for a long time, they know my name, they know what I've done here in the Valley, they know my involvement in the associations and all of that stuff that I've done. And I would assume that, or hope that they would say, I love having that guy on the other side of a transaction. So
yeah, you want to be known as a guy of integrity.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a couple more follow-up questions here. So finances is not the main driver. You want, who doesn't want to do well? and feel comfortable. But let's say you're in a good 2020, 2021 real estate market is doing really well.
Yep.
Are you worried? I can feel like for myself, I a lot of times I feel protected. Like even if things are going really well, I'm like, well, what if it all disappears?
Yeah.
Do you feel that fear, or are you kind of like, it'll be fine?
I 100% feel that fear. I have trauma
So you're
from that.
motivated to make trauma because of 2008?
Yeah. So 2008 was ugly. I mean, it was hard for
At the
most
time,
people.
you did not have the brokerage. You were
At
working
the time, I did
as
not have the brokerage.
Okay,
No.
you're just doing real estate, working with the brokerage.
Yep.
Okay.
I was, I ate what I killed, and that was the extent of it. And that was, part of the passion that drove me to have these additional streams of income. Like, I want to be able to offer property management. That's a little more stable. Right?
Because of 2008? Now this is
I think
diversification.
Diversification.
Yes, okay.
Because, I mean, in 2008, I literally got down to zero money in my bank account. So I used to stress out to no end. I would get really stressed out. We had 2 small children at home, worrying about how I'm going to feed them. And I, on 2 occasions, ended up in the hospital because of, ultimately they said it was due to stress, because I would get dehydrated. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. I was having just super stressed out. And so it would just cause physical harm to my body that I needed to go get something to help me get out of that. And so,
I'm sure that helped the financial situation to go.
Well,
stress
as a matter
about
of fact,
finances, go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Stress about
So
about that.
It actually did. There was a 6-month period during, and I don't remember what that period was. If it was, because it wasn't like immediate. It's like a slow freight train trying to slow down, and you see it coming. This crash is going to happen, but there's like nothing you can do about it. And so there was a 6-month period I didn't do a single transaction, and that set us back. We're living on credit cards, and ultimately that kind of put us in a position where I had to make some really tough decisions for our family. I'm like, the house that we were living in, we had gotten behind, and I'm like, I'm trying to make up these payments, but I'm not making enough money. How are we going to do this? And that's when kind of short sales started happening. But it was before they had any of the systems in place. And that was another one of those areas where you become an expert in. And so I'm doing a short sale for myself as I'm doing short sales for my clients. And ultimately mine was one of those loans that got stuck with Countrywide, that then got stuck with Wells Fargo, and it just we could not get to a decision maker. And so I said, there's no way we're saving this house at this point. We've got to just make a decision to go. And so I had a 2-week-old baby, my youngest, 2 weeks old. And we ended up packing up all of our stuff. We found a place that was for rent around the corner in the neighborhood that we loved. We wanted it to be, didn't want to have a huge impact on our family, and they're all young kids at that time. And so, I remember packing up all of our bags and moving them over. But, and I mean, it's fine. It's some of those hard decisions that you've got to make. But, it was this whole series of things. Being in the hospital, ultimately I had to have surgery. They had cut me open and,
ulcer? Is that what I mean?
No, I had this. It's funny. My mom always told me I was a terrible colicky baby. Like I was terrible, and like always fussy, always whiny. And looking back from that surgery, I had this thing called Meckel's diverticulitis, and it's where the intestine or the digestive system of the embryo usually gets reabsorbed into the system, and it didn't all get reabsorbed. And so that would basically shut down my intestines. I would get really sick, and that's what was causing me to have to go into the hospital those few times. But ultimately, this last time I went in, they put me under the knife, and they said, well, we found out what the problem is, but we had to cut you open and take out a section of your intestines and all this other stuff and sew you back up. And so because of that, I was... I had that 6 months of no income, and then I'm sick, and then kind of rehabilitating, and the market's kind of starting to move again. But yeah, I mean, all of those things kind of piled up to lead to that point where I had not a dime in my account. And I have this thing. People are always like, why do you have this wad of cash that you always carry around? I mean, don't mug me. I don't have a big wad, but I always.
No, I saw it. It's huge.
I made a vow to myself that I would never be without money again in my life. And so I always carry around at least $100 bill. I've always got one in my wallet. And that's just like one of those internal things that you go through these really painful, trying times as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And it kind of sticks with you as, that's what we're going to do. So to your point where you're saying, well, do you ever stress out? Do you ever worry? I said, I do worry, but instead of worry, I now plan a lot better than I did before. I have had time to reflect on that and to, build out additional streams of income and really focus my efforts to, stay out of debt and have a good amount of money socked away so that you can weather those storms. And, we're to a degree, we're in one of those again where the market's shifting and things are changing and the sales have kind of dropped off. Interest rates have really skyrocketed, and it's caused a lot of people, especially in that, 300 to 800,000 price point, they're really sensitive to interest rates. Which
is like the entire Chisholm Valley right now.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And so a lot of people just can't. I mean, the cost of a home for a payment has gone up. It's doubled in the last year.
Yeah, 2.5 probably.
Yeah. So it's really slowed the market, but because I had that experience and we're fine. In fact, we've had this kind of life goal to take our kids and move out of the country so that they can experience the world beyond that, beyond what Meridian, Idaho was like. Because when I went on my mission, even though I was in Texas, it was kind of a culture shock. And I'd never been out of the Treasure Valley. And so that was one of our...
Where are you going to
go? We're going to Costa Rica for 3 months. We're going to take them out for...
When are you going?
Next month.
We had a podcast about this.
I'm going on the 30th. Maybe I'll see you down
there.
To
Costa Rica?
Yeah.
How long are you going to be there?
Just a week.
Yeah, we'll miss each other just by about a week.
Come on, Eric.
Okay.
Can you reschedule?
Are you going to work remotely or just be gone?
I'm working remotely.
Okay.
I've got my team here, so they'll still be doing stuff. I've got an agent that I've worked with for years and years they're not on my brokerage. They're outside.
Would you do a year away?
Well,
Would you want
baby steps?
This is a baby step, yeah.
Oh.
This is to find out. And it's hard. The reason that we're making this decision now for it, I mean, we've talked about it, like I said, for years to be able to do this. And our kids are now older. We've got one away in college. We wanted to do it with everybody.
Yeah.
As they're in college, they're potentially going to get married. It gets a lot harder as they get their own family.
Well, that's why you go to college, is to get married, right?
Well, right.
Well, for me, yes.
Potentially get a degree, but most likely get married.
Get married, yeah. So we just decided it was time. And so we've been, the wheels have been in motion for about a year, but.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
We're excited.
That'll be really fun. Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
So are you going to keep your house Airbnb?
We've got an Airbnb and we've got our personal residence, and we'll probably just run them both. That way we've got a really good team behind us that can, do the turns and that sort of stuff. We have put it out as a long-term rental if somebody a long short-term rental. So like 3 months that they could stay in it, like somebody building a house or something like that. That is something pretty typical, but so far we haven't had any bites on it, but
you're prepared if no one comes.
Yeah, we're prepared.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
So I want to contrast that. So you're present day looking at going to Costa Rica for 30 days, you said?
3
90
months.
days. No,
90
days.
3 months, yeah.
Go back to those tough times during the
recession,
financial crisis of 2008.
Yeah.
I imagine those are dark times, and I imagine at that point going to Costa Rica for any amount of time was something that was not even close to reality. Where did you find strength or hope during those times? I mean, was it your wife? How did you make that next step? How did you put one foot in front of the other one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always had an amazingly supportive wife in anything that I wanted to do. I mean, I'll come home with some crazy idea and she's like, yeah, go for it. You can do it.
What about Turkey Bowl?
Turkey Bowl. She would still tell me to go play Turkey Bowl.
No, lie. Deceive.
Oh, my other lie
Don't
was
do it.
I really wanted to become a great golfer. And so I said, hey, I want to buy these golf clubs. And she's like, I don't think you should. I don't think we can afford it. So needless to say, I bought the golf clubs. I hid the box around the corner, and she was pulling out to leave town for 2 weeks with the kids. And the box is sitting there, and she sees it as she's pulling out, slams the car in park, and comes out, and she said, "Did you buy those golf clubs?" And I'm like, yeah.
No, I stole them.
It's a lot better. Okay.
She literally like gets back in the car, slams the door, and I thought I was not going to see my kids again.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I just do? I'm an idiot. So she's taught me multiple times not to lie to her.
Did you become a great golfer?
No. I golf maybe 3 or 4 times a year.
So 0 for 2 on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your wife was a big, you're saying,
she's a big
source
supporter.
of strength and support.
She's a big supporter. And, I think for me, one of the things that I have always been adamant about is having these goals, like setting a goal, whether it's a big one or a small one. Obviously, Costa Rica is a huge one for us, and we had to set a lot of small goals along the way to be able to get to that. Same thing with my career path. I've always done goal setting, or just had an understanding of what it's going to take. Lived within the means of what is like I'm comfortable with, and then building from there. And so back to that lifelong learner, I really was, just searching through and reading all that I could, trying to become a better business person, but then also kind of heading into throughout my career, I've had coaches on and off for my business. And I really attribute a lot of those big growth moments to having those people. I think it's really important to always have an accountability partner for whatever it is that you do. I've got one for my fitness goals. In fact, your brother, I send him a message every morning, and we text back and forth about what we're doing. And then, I've got one for my business goals, and I've got now this group of business owners from around the world that we communicate with on a daily basis and talk about what we're trying to accomplish, how we're going to get there, how they can help us get there, and just keeping us focused and on track. And I think that that's a really big and important part is setting what that goal is to be able to get yourself to the next step, and then executing on that and having somebody that can kind of hold your feet to the fire on that. So that was kind of the long-winded answer to how I kind of pulled out of that.
That's interesting. I'm actually really curious to see what you want to do with your career moving forward. Like, do you want to sell it to your kids? Work with your kids? Start up a Costa Rican dynasty?
That's the great thing, is that I think you should never be afraid to kind of, if an opportunity arises, to kind of follow that path. Maybe not follow it all the way, but at least entertain it and see what might be the possibility out of that. Right now, my daughter, she took a semester off. She's currently working for me right now. She's doing some photo and video work for me while I'm here doing this. And I don't know that, I guess if they wanted to, maybe I'd pass it along to them. But I don't know that, I wouldn't say as a real estate agent, your book of business is really your business, right? And so taking care of those people, great, but passing that along to another person, I've never seen somebody that transitions that really well. They may be able to sell the entire, like, the physical aspects of that business, but
somewhat is your relationships, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's built around your relationships. So, or at least for mine. And my other thing is, I think that, success, when you first called me and said, "Hey, you want to do this?" We're talking to successful people, and
I didn't say successful.
No, you didn't.
No, just kidding.
Well, in my mind, I was like, well, I don't know what it is that they would be interested in hearing from me, but to me, I think that success, you need to identify what that success is to you, each individual person, and then execute on that. And for me, my success was not that I needed to have, this huge business that is, making millions of dollars every year on. It's that I have a really good balance of quality of life between, my personal goals for my health and my family and my spirituality and all of those aspects to be kind of a well-rounded person. And yes, I need enough to be able to be comfortable. I need enough to be able to execute on the goals that I've got, but I am not one that's driven to the point that I spend all of my waking hours working, missing kids' activities and events, because that's always been really important to me, that I'm there for all of the things that they do. So if they wanted to join the family business, yeah, I would be all for it. Home hacks is a little bit different. I've got a business partner on that, and I think ultimately the goal on that would be to, grow it, and at some point either sell it to somebody or have him buy me out or whatever. But
and that's definitely a sellable business right there.
That is a sellable business, yeah. Mm-hmm. Much more sellable than a real estate agent and his book of business. So
Eric, you talked about a lot of awesome stuff. Finance is not a huge motivator. You said you definitely want to be comfortable, and you don't, you have some trauma, so maybe you're a little bit more. I understand. A lot of people are like that when they want to protect themselves with different diversity, income streams, all of that, different things. Yeah. You also talked about you were president of the MLS board. Is that right?
Yep.
Here in the Treasure Valley, and you really want people to be able to know that you're a good guy to work with in that integrity. How much do you think fame draws to you?
Well, having never been famous, I don't know.
I mean, there's fame, and then we're not talking big fame.
Or notoriety.
Local or
lower
regional fame.
Well, municipal.
Yeah. Municipality.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do think I want to be known and well respected. I think, I don't remember who said this quote, but that, you truly die when nobody remembers you. And I do want to be remembered.
Stalin, maybe?
Yeah.
No, I was just kidding. I don't know who said it.
That's Coco. The movie Coco, Pixar.
Is that what it is? Yeah, you never know where you're drawing things from these days, whether it's your kids' movies you heard in the background or a book that you read.
Yeah,
sure.
But I do think that for me, being well respected is kind of important.
Were you like class president or student council?
Or
what
I was class clown.
Class clown.
I won class clown.
But you weren't a part of any like school club or organization?
No, beyond the football team and those sorts of things. I really just kind of ran with my crew, and we had a good time. And I was like the social guy that kind of bridged different friend groups. Like I would go from group to group, and I had a bunch of different friends that I got along with. And I think that's why I do so well in like the sales side of business, because I really do enjoy people's company. I love getting to know people, and I like to think that I'm a helper and help people with whatever their needs are, and so it was just kind of a natural thing.
You talked about just now about how you're kind of measuring what you need. You don't need millions of dollars every year and whatever in income from your business, but would you say? I mean, when would you say you've made it?
That's a
or
good
have
question.
you?
No, I don't think. No.
Or can you?
I think.
Oh, keep asking those questions.
Keep asking.
Where are you?
Where will you be when you make it?
As a lifelong learner, as I like to say, I think that there's always room for improvement. You can always be improving. Will I always be selling real estate? I don't know. I don't know if that's.
Do you want to be, or do you ever want to be like, I'm done with that?
No.
Maybe a Twitch streamer.
A Twitch streamer? No. I don't have any desire to be a Twitch streamer, but I do think that, I've always said that I'll probably never retire from real estate. I'll always keep it because it's something that you can do into your forever, really. And so I'll always maintain that business. Do I always want to be like, grinding at the office, doing all this stuff? I don't know that I do want to do that. And I think that exploring this trip to Costa Rica and how I can, change the way that I work a little bit and how I work and what I do. I had this, I talked about kind of this imposter syndrome for a little while about I felt a little strange doing this other business while my primary, I was on the board of these associations, and I'm helping out these clients with their home purchases, but then I'm
also a closet
hanging a TV because this is the coolest thing that I've ever seen.
Crawling in somebody's attic.
Yeah. No, I try and stay away from any of that stuff. But yeah. So yeah, that was, I don't know that I can say I've ever made it. And I don't know that, you're always improving, you're always progressing. And I think life is made for that. And I don't expect that I'm ever going to hit this point that I've made it. I'll hit this point where I will change what I'm doing, but I'll never like change the fact that I'm working and trying to improve myself.
You're a real estate broker.
Yeah.
How many real estate agents do you work with now?
I've got one other agent that works with me besides myself.
Okay.
Now.
How many have you had what's the most you've had at any given point?
I think I honestly don't know. I've always maintained a small brokerage. It's never been more than 20. So
any interesting stories there about leaving and competing with you, or?
Not really. I mean, again, because I've always been kind of referral based and not lived really close to too many agents that I've worked with, I haven't had any of that sort of, well, I guess that's not true. There have been moments where, because I do know, and I'm friends with a lot of agents, and there have been times where, they knew all of us, and they're like, well, I decided not to use anybody because I didn't want to have to pick between one of you and upset anybody. So there's been that before, but it's not super often that sort of thing happens.
Got it.
So, we're going to look back now and go back on your career. What would you do different besides the ACL break?
Yeah. Like I say, biggest regret, the ACL.
Golf clubs and ACL, both sports related.
Whoa, he didn't say he regretted the golf clubs. He said
there's two things.
Was it
two lies?
Or was it
no,
a lie?
two lies, not
two
a regret.
lies,
Okay.
Yes. Two non-truths.
Okay.
Two
So it wasn't a regret.
non-truths.
Yeah. I think for me being I think distraction is probably the biggest thing for me. Is I will allow myself to get really distracted and off track at times. And in my mind being like, I know I need to kind of rein this in and pull back on this, and just kind of allowing it to totally consume me. Like I was saying, sometimes I'll find something that I find really interesting, and I will go all in on that to the detriment of everything else. I'll stop making my calls to my clients, and I'll stop doing this, the regular things that you need to do to continue to generate business. And so I think that's probably one that I would say is something that I would try really hard to balance a little bit more. I guess balance might
something you still continually work on.
Yeah, I think I'm always working on that.
Because I talked to you, I called you out of the blue.
Yeah.
I was driving to my daughter's basketball game, and this is when NFT, crypto, so probably November-ish of 2021.
Yeah.
And I'd seen you'd post some stuff on Twitter, and you're like, I'm all in. I drank the Kool-Aid. So you talking about these distractions of sometimes I give it too much attention.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
With crypto?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it is. I mean, so we didn't talk about this at all, but I have been like a really avid, I love podcasts. I love content like that. I listen to, Tim Ferriss was really influential in my life in kind of his 4-hour work week and kind of crafting a life around that type of lifestyle. And then he talked about all sorts of other stuff. And so I really kind of dug in both on that and on the technology side. There's a lot of technology podcasts, and there was this guy, Kevin Rose, who was really into technology, and I was really passionate about kind of following those things. And they started talking about, well, not Tim Ferriss so much, but Kevin Rose started a new podcast, and I started listening, and he was talking about it, and was talking about Gary Vaynerchuk and these things that he was doing. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. I've heard this term NFT. And prior to that, I mean, I had invested a small amount in like Bitcoin and had bought some of that, but not early enough to have it be like significant money. And then they started talking about NFTs, and they talked about how it would change the way that you can own and be part of a community. And that for some reason resonated with me. I'm like, I totally get that. I understand completely how this,
because there's these DAOs, right?
There's DAOs.
And you're like can be a member or a leader in these groups.
Yes.
Are you one of those?
I'm in a handful of DAOs. Yeah.
Okay. And
It's
what
a
is DAO?
decentralized autonomous organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it stands for. Essentially, it's just a big group of people that own pieces.
It can be that, or it can be that want to move some initiative forward. I look at it almost as, I look at like my association involvement. And, we had to vote on certain things. We had to bring proposals forward. We had to do
Association being like the MLS or
like the MLS.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so these DAOs, a lot of them have different purposes. There's some real estate ones. There are
Like virtual real estate or real estate?
Real real estate and virtual real estate. There's this company called Roofstock. I don't know if you've heard of them before. They kind of package together these investment properties that you can purchase. But they did that and started doing it on chain, meaning like on the Ethereum blockchain, so that you always could see through this independent ledger who owned that piece of property. And so that was one of the things that they did recently that was interesting. But back to the Gary Vaynerchuk thing, they said it was art, like NFTs are art, and I'm like, if this is art, I don't want to participate, because Gary Vaynerchuk's art is like, I don't get it. That doesn't make sense. And then the podcast came along and Gary was on it, and he talked about everything that he was going to be doing and how you'd be able to always identify who the owner was and that you were there at the beginning. And I said, that makes sense to me. I want to participate in that. And I honestly had a little bit of FOMO from the initial like Web 2 thing. I saw these people that I respected that were building these businesses within this space. And there were times in my career where I was like, I really want to just go to San Francisco and show up on Google's doorstep and say, I want to work for you. I've got ideas. I want to do something. And I never did any of that. I didn't go to like South by Southwest. I didn't do any of those types of things.
But you've been to some pretty big conferences, right?
I have now, yeah. I've been to a bunch of different conferences. I went to VCon, which is Gary Vaynerchuk's, it was a really good experience. I've been to a lot of smaller ones. I was just in Miami at a conference where it's more art focused, but a lot of the communities that I'm involved with were there and hosting gatherings where they were discussing kind of the future of things. And so I participated in those. And so, yeah, I that was one that...
Have you made a significant amount of money off of NFTs? No, you don't have to talk about like overall.
That means yes, right?
Well,
You can say made and lost. I want to hear both. Can we?
Crypto, yeah.
That was my follow-up question. Have you lost a significant amount of money?
If you don't sell, you neither make nor lose the money. So I'm what they call a hodler. I don't sell a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's hold.
Hold,
People who
hold,
are
yes.
That's a misspelled hold.
Yes. And so, yeah, I've seen lots of crazy valuations, and I've seen them come back down. And
Answer the question though. Made a lot of money or lost? I mean, whether you've lost or not.
no,
Gone up?
I don't think I think overall I'm up.
Okay.
From what I put in. I didn't put in like crazy amounts of money. I put in more than probably is
more than those golf clubs cost.
More than those golf clubs cost, yes. But again, this is my wife. I was totally open with my wife. I'm very supportive.
She's supportive of you taking these.
She's like,
she's a hodler
I get
too.
it. Yes. She does have a world of women. She has a handful of things.
Oh, cool.
But yeah. But that was, my eyes were kind of open. And now, there was a little naivete in kind of what I initially went in, but I think overall in the space of, the future of crypto and Web3 and what's being built out there, I think that we're just early stages of breaking through there. There's a lot of, Kevin Rose did a project and I was an early, they call it minter. I was an early buyer into that project, and it's really kind of exposed me to a lot of really interesting things and people, and that's why I attend these in-person events, because you get to kind of rub elbows with people that are from different backgrounds, have different perspectives, have a different understanding of how the world works, and can really kind of change your own views and kind of where you think the world is.
So even though NFT, like the craze has died down, it's still very much alive for you.
Yeah. I have not gone anywhere, as they say. Mm-hmm. I'm sticking around. I have sort of responsibilities in some of those spaces. One of the I talked a little bit about this kind of group of small business owners that I communicate with on a daily basis. It's a small group that we kind of created out of one of these projects that all of us have independent businesses that we own, that we're building in whole variety of backgrounds. I mean, we've got doctors, we've got, real estate tycoons, if you will, that, have 400 or 500 doors, and we all are there because we believe that the impact that this will have on kind of how the world works and runs is going to be pretty significant. And so I think it's a really exciting time. I'm glad to be involved, but yes, I really, there were times where I was up till 4 or 5 in the morning, just trying to understand how things work and making these kind of relationships, because the thing with crypto is it's a 24/7 cycle. It's not like the stock market. It's not, open and close. It's always going. And so I really jumped in on that. I've finally kind of come back up for air and taken a little breath there to balance that a little bit. But that is one of those things.
Because you're going to need to revise your 80% real estate, 20% home hacks, because where does crypto fit in? That sounds like you got another 35% at least.
If you don't sell, you don't have...
Okay. Don't have gains.
You don't have gains.
Well, I mean, time. I'm not talking about
yes,
income, but time.
You're talking time. Yeah. I mean, crypto is one of those that, the great thing is you can do it anywhere, right? And that is the cool thing about it, is that I feel like it will kind of level the playing field financially for a lot of people who, and speed up the amount of time that it takes to transact and do business. We're seeing some of these integrations already in some of these platforms. I mean, Shopify's starting to integrate some of it in there. PayPal's had conversations about what they're doing. Visa's talked about, settling on some sort of blockchain layer, and it will 100% have an impact on how every aspect of business is done. It's just unknown how that will be, right? I mean, we're in the very early stages of, if you go back to Web 2, we're in the dial-up days probably of what Web 3 is. So,
and the SBF didn't help.
No, he did not help. That's
a big blow, honestly.
It was a major blow, like both
confidence in general, just overall public perception is
exactly.
damaged,
I mean, with how tied into kind of some of this legislation and stuff that was supposedly happening, I think it really set us back. And I mean, that's one of my big worries is where the we need some sort of direction and guidance, but how far they really kind of regulate these things. They need, certain aspects of it need to be regulated, but you overregulate and you're going to kill the growth of it, I think. So,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, are you guys involved at all? I didn't know we'd go this route, but
no, very small.
Yeah.
And not in touch really.
Week, but it's a very teeny amount.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. I don't know where it's going to go, and I don't want to put my time learning enough.
I was very intrigued by it, and that's why I called you, because I was like, what is this new thing? What's going on? And I like technology. I like, new ideas. And, but yeah, I maybe dipped my toe in the water, but other than that, I kind of stayed back.
Yeah. I think I just jumped all the way in and kind of was there drowning for a little bit. But and the real reason that I did it is I knew we were very early stages and I wanted to be, and you look back at those people that jumped in and really started attending these events for like when South by Southwest first kicked off. And there were all these people that were hanging out with now people who are founders and have made huge impact on the world. And I wanted to be in the room during that. And that's really my big reason. Again, it goes back to money. I think at some point the investments that I've made will be valuable. Right now, probably they're not that crazy valuable. They're up, but not amazing. But the experiences that I'm having right now and the people that I'm getting to meet and the eyes on technology, because I really feel like this is going to have a huge impact once we can figure it out on how the real estate transaction happens, right? And that will completely change. And I what I really want to do is be involved in that part of it, whatever that business is that starts up that really can take this stuff all on chain and really change the way. Because once that happens, once you change how your selling a property and buying a property internally, then it changes my core business, right? It changes how the agent interfaces with that and what their duties and responsibilities are. And so that was kind of one of the selfish reasons that I got involved, is I wanted to be there. And so I've met a lot of people that are working on projects like this, and my hope is that I can have some sort of input and guidance and direction in how that plays out.
I think if I were to sum it up, it sounds like, Eric, money is a thing for you, but the real value for you is these connections with people.
Yeah.
Is what it seems like.
100%. Yeah.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Eric, that was really great. Really appreciate you sharing your story. If you want to learn more about Eric, reach out to him. Check him out. HomehackHQ.com.
Hacks, plural?
Home hacks.
Yes, plural.
Home hacks.
Whoops. Okay. HomehacksHQ.com. IdahoSmartAgents.com. Check him out. He does a really good job. Really happy to hear him. Thanks you so much. That was a great story. And to the outro.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Founders Podcast. Be sure to follow the host on Twitter. Search @JordB Hansen and @BrandonMinert to discuss more. Also, be sure to visit thefounderspod.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content.